The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2021 Charles Schwab Challenge. Final bets, DraftKings Ownership, the weather, and of course, the viewer chat. If you're watching this after the fact, hit the time codes. They'll all be in there so you can jump around to wherever you want. Live chat will just say live chat, so that could really be anything based on what people say, but just pound those into the YouTube feed right now, and we'll be good. Remember to smash the like button to the video, subscribe to Mayo Media Network. And I guess that's all you really need to do today, besides becoming a member at fantasynational.com. Fantasynational.com/Mayo. Get you 20% off. Build all your lineups. Use the head-to-head tool, ownership projections, the simulator. It's all up there. The U.S. Open is coming up very, very quickly. If you didn't get in last week, you still get the 20% off by fantasynational.com/Mayo. Listeners League link is full. I'll probably have a newsletter coming out this evening. It's free to subscribe to the newsletter. You can find that in the description of the video and pod. Don't know if I'll get around to it. It's my wife's birthday tomorrow, so I don't know if we're celebrating tonight or tomorrow. If we celebrate tonight, probably won't get it out. Not going to lie to you. Not worth it for me to be in that kind of shit going forward by not doing it. So hopefully I'll have something put together for you with the best stats of the week, links to all the articles, all the shows, ownership, updated projections, and everything of that sort, because there's a lot of good content, not only from me, circulating around the interwebs as of this week. I want to jump into my picks, though. Probably a bunch of losers, because that's all I do on this show is give out losing wagers. But I tried to scale back a little. I didn't play any first-round leaders. I didn't play any top 20s. I'm just trying to narrow back down on let's try to hit some winners. Didn't even play a bunch of each ways, just bomb each ways. And I got sucked into two guys that I would just feel bad if I didn't have money on them and they won, so they made the FOMO list. But what I got right now, Connors, Neiman, Hoffman. Those are the three that I gave out on Monday. 28-1, 40-1, 55-1. Neiman and Hoffman's numbers have been beat down, so it's not only just me who are on these guys this week. So a lot of value has been beaten out of those numbers if you didn't grab them on Monday. I still like them to win. There's a reason that I'm betting them. But the two that I found that I didn't expect to have, because when they opened this week, they were at 45-1 and 50-1. But I did bet Billy Horschel and Jason Kokrak. I got them both at 65-1. You search around hard enough, you're going to find those numbers as well. I just think those numbers are too big for a tournament like this, to tell you the truth. So I jumped in on those as well. From beyond 100-1, Mav McNeely, Henrik Stenson, Michael Thompson, 150, 200-1, 200-1, both with the top 5 each way, or all three of them with the top 5 each way on those. If you just want to play those like top 20 bets, that's probably the more sensible move. But hey, I'm here to win big if I'm going to win at all. I'm not going to win, so I might as well at least try to. I'd rather strike out swinging than strike out looking, put it that way. 2 FOMO bets, see, woo! Kim, 90-1 with the top 5 each way, and my guy, the Gim Reaper, 125-1 with the top 5 each way. It wouldn't be right if he entered the winner's circle slipping on the plaid jacket, and I wasn't there to cash a bet on him at 125-1. The stats are still telling me that Doug Gim is good outside of putting, so maybe he'll learn how to putt this week. Wouldn't that be terrific news for everyone? European Tour, you can go watch for the Made in Denmark show. It's the Made in something or other, but it's the Made in Denmark. It's in Denmark. Sky and Tom gave out their bets. I watched the show. I tailed some of their bets. So I got Guy Guido, 45-1. Keep it in Italia with Molinari. Eddie Molinari, 100-1 with the top 5 each way. And David Horsey, Cam's boy, 140-1, has won this event in the past as a runner-up finish as well. 140-1 with the top 5 each way. One and done, I got Connors, Jeff's got Justin Thomas, and Cust has Abraham Answer, the Mexican Allen Iverson. I also played some fun PGA Euro each way doubles. Not every site offers these, but if you do have a site that offers them, they're just kind of fun to put together. You bet 50 cents on the outright, 50 cents on the each way, and you're off. I actually had a pretty decent each way version of this. So I think the total bet cost $54 with the amount of players that I played this week. Last time around, I think it was like $36, but Molinari came inside Guido came inside the top 5, and Kazire at pretty deep odds came in at the top 5. That 50 cent each way by itself, just because they both came inside the top 5, ended up paying, I think it was like $371. Now, all of a sudden you get two guys who win. It's like $10K. So I'm trying to like dig up here as I try to get out of the hole for this golf betting season. But I got Connors, Neiman, Connors, Neiman. I thought I threw Morikawa onto that list too. Now I have to go look this up to see if I actually included Morikawa. This will be in the, if I do release the newsletter, this is the sort of stuff that'll be in it. So you can just visualize it rather than relying on me to give out stupid ideas for some stuff. Did I have Morikawa on it? I guess is my question. I do have Morikawa on it because I really like Morikawa this week, but I bet too many guys previously that I didn't have the money to go down to 14-1. Instead, I just added Kokrak and Billy Ho and Stenson and Thompson, and I still had money left over for the amount of money that I would have to wager on 14-1 to get the same sort of payout with all those guys. So Morikawa, Connors, Neiman, Hoffman, Billy Ho, Kokrak, McNeely, Stenson, and Thompson, combined, parlayed with the each way top 5 with Guido, Scrivener, Molinari, Moeller, Horsey, and someone named Helligkilde. Helligkilde. Shout out to my guy Jeppe, who I know just got back to Copenhagen. Maybe I can text him later. He can give me the phonetic way to pronounce that name, but there is zero chance that that is going to happen for me. So those are the 6 Euro guys. They're all super deep odds. So if one of those guys, I mean, Scrivener and Guido are 45-1, but the other guys are 100-1 and beyond. If one of them finishes inside the top 5, and even Morikawa finishes inside the top 5, it's going to be a pretty decent week. You know, you have 2 guys from one tour, 1 guy from another, and he's a long shot. All of a sudden, you start seeing the money pile up. So I actually find these bets kind of fun, and it's a pretty low investment. You can play it as a 10-cent double, a 25-cent double. It's not a large investment, and it should keep you going throughout the weekend because you just have so many guys. You know, 2 of them got to play well, right? Weather report. I put this in the chat already. If you're looking for it on windfinder.com, it is the Fort Worth Tower. There's a couple around there, but the course is right next to Fort Worth Zoo. This is the closest tower to the zoo that I could find. So that's what we're dealing with. It's been pretty rainy in Fort Worth Monday and Tuesday, so it could be softer conditions, although it does look like it's going to heat up. The average temperature somewhere in like the mid-70s, breaching into the low 80s for most of the week. But what we do see on Thursday is pretty sustained wind and wind gusts, and this starts as early as 7 a.m. in the morning. And it goes all the way through to like 7 p.m. in the evening. The highest wind gust you're going to find is like 24 mile per hour. And the tricky part is that's when the winds are actually at its lowest constant speed at like 10 to 11 miles per hour. So there's a huge gap between the gusts and the consistent wind. Sometimes that poses more problems for players than you might think. Now, later on in the afternoon, you're going to get a sustained 15 to 16 mile per hour wind with gusts up to 23 and 24. There's less of a gap there. So at least when you adjust once, it's not a huge overcompensation if the wind really does pick up, because it's not going to be as big of a difference between the top end and the low end speed that you're constantly dealing with. I actually played for the first time in 18 months. Actually, not 18 months. I played last summer with Jeff. Whatever day Derwin James broke his leg, I was playing golf with Jeff. He also gave me like 3 puffs of whatever weed he was smoking, and it basically knocked me out for 3 holes. Wasn't expecting that. Wasn't expecting to be so tough. I gave up smoking weed like 7 years ago, so it just, boom, hit me in the face. Just like the sun hit me in the face yesterday. Wasn't that much of a sunny day, but we played yesterday. The winds were pretty constant around like 18 to 20 miles per hour with gusts up to 30. So I have like between a cloudy day UV burn and massive wind burn everywhere. Forgot how hard it is. I mean, I moved back to where I'm from, so I grew up playing these conditions. But after being away for like, a decade and a bit, coming back to them and trying to play golf again, it's like, oh my God, I totally forgot that you can smash a 5-iron into this wind and it'll go like 120 yards, because that's just what the wind's going to do to your ball if you're not like great playing in the wind. Friday is the interesting part with the weather, because it looks like it's going to rain just a little bit overnight, making it softer conditions in the morning. And there are wind gusts up to 17 during the morning, but a constant speed around 7 in the afternoon. Low gusts, low average temperature, that the course could theoretically dry out in the afternoon. So you'd be probably looking for like an AM-PM split, although if the wind gusts don't pick up in the morning, like 7 to noon, that the PM-AM wave may have an advantage here if the rain comes overnight, that you could just be dealing with very soft conditions in the morning. And if the wind gusts don't get up to like 20, which they're predicted for right now, and I wouldn't rely too much on the weather report for a Friday as we sit here on a Wednesday afternoon. However, if there is that rain overnight, the first guys on the course who played the PM wave on Thursday could really be looking good and really pin stalking if the winds die down. So it's really kind of a crapshoot when we're dealing with the weather. Although it looks like we're going to get rain overnight again on Friday, windy and gusty conditions in the morning on Saturday, and then pretty flat overall during Sunday. Kind of windy, but not so much. So the first day looks like the worst when it comes to the wind. One of the reasons I didn't play any first round leaders this week. DraftKings ownership. If you you go over to fantasynational.com, use /Mayo, you can find all of the real-time ownership projections as more people enter their data. I actually haven't generated my lineups yet because I'm still just kind of waiting. I got behind this week just a little bit. But right now, what we're looking at in terms of people actually generating lineups, and this is from 10,000 lineups generated so far. Expect that number to be like 25,000, 30,000 by the time that Wednesday evening comes along. So a lot more data will get entered into the system. But Morikawa, Answer, Connors, Spieth, and Hoffman are looking like your top three right now. From the lower ends, you got Kirk and Varner. They could be pushing like 15-ish%. And then Brian Harman, Matt Wallace, Daniel Berger, Cameron Tringale. I don't know how this is really going to translate, but because I talked about it with Ulrich on the DK show, I've seen other people mention his name. It's not a secret that's out there. Amongst the public, it would be a secret, but amongst people who play golf week in and week out on DraftKings, they know all about Vince Whaley at $6,200. People who have generated lineups have found them in their lineups around 11% of the time. We've projected out that ownership to be around 9%, but that might be just among members of fantasynational.com. Once you add in the overall public, who I guarantee you doesn't have a fucking clue who this guy is. I mean, I couldn't pick him out of a lineup looking at him. I see the name, I see the numbers, I see 9 straight cuts, and I'm like, $6,200. It seems pretty good. So I think that people will play him. I'm kind of fuzzy on where the actual ownership ends up because I do think this week, just looking how everything plays out, it seems like there's going to be one of two builds that goes through this week. Because Justin Thomas is weirdly coming in at like 10% ownership. Could be a nice week to jump on JT as he projects to be the lowest owned player above $10,000. Actually, the lowest owned player basically from Neiman up, it's Scheffler and Thomas are the two who look like they're going to provide you the most leverage if you don't want to use Gary Woodland, who does project to be the lowest owned player from $8,700 and up at around 7% with him. So he is a nice pivot play here in the middle. Sung Jae also shaping up to be a bit of a pivot play as well. But if you want to go like Thomas and even Finau is not super highly, like Finau and Thomas, Finau and Scheffler as your start, you can take the chalk all the way down the board and your lineup is way different than everyone else's. But what it looks like to me is that people are either starting with Spieth or Morikawa and working their way down. They're not using two of those guys. I mean, some are obviously, but most people are not using two of those guys in their lineups. They're using one of them and a $9,000 guy and essentially Charlie Hoffman, Matt Wallace, or Brian Harman as their next guy in, and they're filling out the rest of the roster with Chris Kirk, Matt Kuchar, Griot, Snedeker, people in that range. Harold Varner seems to be popping up a lot as the last man in. Or if you do play the Superstars and Scrubs way, which I don't think is going to be a massive move this week, and I've discussed this at length already, but top 65 in ties with a field of 121 players, 5 of those guys are probably dead to begin with because they're not making the cut. You're going to have like 60% of the field make the cut. So if you did want to jam in Spieth and Thomas, or Thomas and Morikawa, or Reed and Berger, Reed and Spieth, some combination of those two of the guys above $10,000, I mean, Denny McCarthy is $6,300. Whaley is $6,200. You just put those two with those two, or whoever you like from the bottom, whether it be Lahiri or Duffner, whoever the favorite sleepers are this week. Like, you have money in the middle that if you wanted to pay up for like Corey Connors, or you wanted to pay up for Charlie Hoffman or Brian Harman, I mean, you still have enough money to have a good 6-man in that too. If you trust two people in the $6,000 area, especially from $6,600 and below, you can make a Stars and Scrubs team no problem this week. And I do think that is going to be the contrarian way to build. Just very few people, even like if I have Spieth and Morikawa as the two highest owned guys above $10,000, I do think that there are going to be very few people who actually put those two together in a lineup and then work their way down. I mean, you're going to give up some upside with the guys that you have at the bottom, but if you just wanted to make that, let's say you play 20 teams, that's your start for all of them, Spieth and Morikawa. I mean, I think you could random shuffle everything at the bottom and just take a list of like 12 guys in the $6,000 area and mix and match them with those two guys at the top, and then fill out, the meat of the sandwich with maybe some higher low 9 guy, one high 8 guy, one mid 7 guy, one low 7 guy, and just have a bank of like 2 or 3 of them, if that was the way that you wanted to play. Maybe Justin Thomas and Patrick Reed are your jam this week, and I mean, that's cheaper to do for one thing, and you wouldn't have to go all the way to the bottom and make your 3rd and 4th man in a lot better. I just don't think a lot of people are thinking about it from that sense this week. They saw the lineup that won last week, and even this week, like you have Answer and Scheffler and Connors and Neiman and Kokrak and Billy Ho and Hoffman. Like, you can fit 4 of those guys into a lineup no problem and not hate your lineup while looking at it. So I think that people will take the path of least resistance with that one. Like, expect to see a lot of Answer, Connors, Neiman, Herman, Varner, Kirk. I don't know if that lineup completely works in the salary cap, but it's pretty close. That like 5 of those guys in a lineup is probably going to be the move for a lot of people this week. So at least that's how I see the ownership breaking down. If you want to play the 6 most popular guys and leave $100 on the table, you're probably going to be unique anyway. So I wouldn't really worry about it that much. But if you are looking for leverage, kind of like Brooks and Cantlay last week, for me, the leverage plays on the board right now, Justin Thomas for sure. Woodland, Im, and Scheffler would be the next tier down. I actually think I like Sung Jae the best of those. Rose coming in pretty devalued now as well. And then you have this like mid $8,000 pocket between Streelman, Na, Phil, and Palmer, and just no one is using those guys. Maybe Streelman cracks 10%, but I would doubt that the other guys breach 7%, and you're probably looking at 5, 4, 3% for some pretty good names, considering Mickelson just won a major. Kevin Na won this tournament 2 years ago and has already won at a comp course so far this season, and this is Ryan Palmer's home course, and he has a bunch of top 10s here. No one wants those guys because they need to have Brian Harman and Cameron Tringali and Matt Wallace and Charlie Hoffman in their lineup. So that's an actual leverage spot. If you wanted to completely fade Harman, Wallace, Tringali, and Hoffman, I mean, I'm playing Hoffman. Hoffman's the only one of those 4 that I'm going to play. But if you just wanted to divvy up your Hoffman shares into Phil, Na, and Palmer, and you're still not even going to get close to the Charlie Hoffman percentage between those 3 guys. So that is another leverage point that I see on this board if you have the guts to take it. I'm currently not playing any of them, but I might work that in depending on the builds that I end up going with. Let's jump into the live chat and see what the peoples are talking about today. Hey, Pat, love the content. What do you think will be the contrarian build this week? Stars and Scrubs? Andy, reading my mind. Just went over that, so I hope that worked for you. Thoughts on Bramlett? He did well last tournament in Texas, and Rob Bolton has him on his sleepers picks list. Don't really care too much who he does or doesn't have on his sleepers list. This is Pat Mayo show. Not really scanning the internet for other people's picks. Bramlett's fine. I'd probably like him at a course where distance matters a lot, but if he can continue to putt as well as he's putt on bent grass greens, this could be a good opportunity for him. Not really my bag to play, so I'm going to take a pass on that. Thoughts on Garnett as the last guy in? I think that you can find someone better than Bryce Garnett at this point. He kind of has the courses where he plays well, and that's about it. I don't know really how he's done in his career at this course. I imagine not well because he didn't immediately pop out as someone I wanted to go to. Favorite play, $6,700 and below this week. I believe that was the question. Let's see. Yeah, $6,800 and below. Who do I have start here? Hoagie and Stenson at 68 and 67. Michael Thompson at 66, Duffner 66, McCarthy 63, and Whaley at 62. I don't want to get too hyped for Henrik Stenson or Michael Thompson. I did bet them both at 200 to 1. And I think Stenson's odds have cratered a bit, but the 2 things that he's doing really well really play at Colonial. He's still hitting a ton of fairways, and the irons have started to come back. He's not putting well, that can flip. He's not chipping well, and the off-the-tee game, besides the accuracy, is lacking. Those 2 things don't really mean much at Colonial if you're in contention. If you're having a bad week, obviously, they make a huge difference. If you're driving it into the woods or something, then you're going to miss the cut. However, with the things that he is excelling at the moment, which line up historically with what he's really good at, I do think that he is probably the highest upside gamble you can take in this. Duffner, if he can putt, I mean, watch out because the ball striking has been really good. And again, he's a fairways and irons type player if he can just get the putter rolling, which he has not shown any indication of doing. $6,600 is a really good price for Jason Duffner this week. Let's keep going. Think Justin Rose will be a legit contender this week, or do you see him more as a top 20 bet? I mean, I'm not going to bet Justin Rose, who's like 25 to 1 as a top 20. I'm not super in the business of playing like even money top 20s. The only thing to know about Justin Rose, it's really hard to figure out where he's at right now because his performance at the PGA Championship, you look at the leaderboard, hey, that's pretty good. He lapped the field in putting a week ago. He gained, I believe, 11 strokes putting. That's not going to happen probably any other week of his career. The ball striking was not good. And at his peak, what you're looking for from Justin Rose is immaculate ball striking and hope that the putter comes along for the ride. Now, the ball striking had been pretty good previous to that, and the putting was bad. And it just kind of mirrored itself. It went in the inverse last week. So he could most definitely get the ball striking back. He can most definitely contend. He's not for me this week, put it that way. What exact place do you think Neiman finishes this week? Don't worry, I smashed that like button. All of you should smash the like button out there as well. Neiman, how about first place? That would be fine. Probably T7, though. That would be my guess. Any interest in Putnam? He has a third at this venue, shows up in the par 4 and proximity ranges from your key stats. I mean, I didn't pop up for me, but maybe I wasn't digging deep enough on old Andrew Putnam. But let's see, where is Putnam? I don't know why that isn't sorting for me, but okay. Putnam, $6,600. I can get behind it. The putter is really good. The chipping is really good. The driving and irons are uneven, to say the least. That's why he's $6,600. Tends to play well in Texas over time. Missed the cut on the number in Houston. I believe he did make it at the Byron Nelson last week. Like you said, he's played well at this course. I just happen to like other guys in that range. I'm not anti-Putnam. I'm not for Putnam at the same time either. Hey, Pat and Paul. Hi, Jack. Smash the like. Loving all the golf content over here in the UK. Thinking Spieth will botch his second win of the season. I think that's Notch's second win of the season. Also badly in need of a big cuss corner. I have a cuss corner in the bag right now, actually. I was thinking about releasing it maybe next week, but I got some football stuff I need to do. I'm going to have Sports Cheetah on tomorrow's show. So remember, even if you don't, we'll probably talk a bit about the new game that is up for the big match, Brady and Phil versus Bryson and Aaron Rodgers. So we'll probably talk a bit about that, probably about the Brooks and Bryson stuff anyway. We have some NFL futures that we want to talk through, plus an update on the NBA playoffs. That is Preston's bread and butter. So that's going to be a highly entertaining show. Preston's one of the best guests that I have on in the betting market. So please go support that show, even if you don't give a shit about the content. You need to keep the numbers up, keep the downloads up, and everything going. But I do have a cuss corner that was recorded probably 2 months ago at this point. It's in the old studio. It's going to be weird that, Jeff and I are in studio together. Cust is on the line. I've just been saving that for a day that I might need it. And maybe I'm getting the vaccine in tomorrow. So if I get put my ass from the vaccine, not anticipating that maybe I'll have to release a cuss corner. Pat, love the shows. Thanks for constantly grinding for us. Any leans on Reed versus Berger and thoughts on the founder of basketball? As put out by PGA Tour Splits 101, Matthew Neesmith, the grandson of the inventor of basketball, putts really well on bent grass versus all other surfaces. So that's an interesting note. He kind of fits that, he's like the homeless version Sam Burns of someone we really liked earlier on in the season. And it's kind of faded out of our consciousness a little bit that he was to rebound here. It wouldn't be super shocking. Good putting surface for him. The ball striking obviously has been very good for Matthew Neesmith. I don't really have a lean on Reed versus Berger. I'm not playing either of them, I don't think, because I don't have a great feel for them. I like Morikawa a lot. I like Spieth a lot. I'm going to use those two. And that's not to say that Thomas Reed and Daniel Berger aren't far behind those guys. It's just I have a good feeling about those two guys. I think they really stand out, and the rest of them, they're the top players in the field. They can most definitely win. I don't think any of them are going to miss the cut. One of them probably will miss the cut because it's golf, but I don't have a specific lean on any of them. Keep up the grind, Pat. You're the best. McNeely or Matt Jones? The answer should be Matt Jones, but I'm playing my guy, Matt McNeely. I'm all in on Matt McNeely this week. Any love for Tringali is an outright 66-1. Good form and played well at the PGA Championship until he blew up. Well, I don't know if that's good form when you shoot 10 over on 3 holes. I'm just out on Tringali this week. He's probably a good play to go back to, but it's not like people are avoiding Tringali. I probably want more than 66-1 to tell you the truth. Tom Jacobs. Oh, Tom, host of European Tour Picks and Bets, as the Made in Himmerland. That's the name of the European Tour event. I was calling it the Made in Denmark, but that is the move. Billy Ho, Zalatoris, or the Mexican Allen Iverson. I like Billy Ho's value this week versus those guys. I think objectively I like Zalatoris the best, then answer, then Horschel, but I don't think that Horschel is more than 2.5 times behind these guys in terms of betting odds. So that's why I went with Billy Horschel. Hey, Bat, great stuff as always. Thanks for tuning in, Greg. What are your thoughts on the now non-existent Greenbrier as a corollary course? I know Na and Neiman both won there. Sure, I can get behind that. Those were pure bent grass greens. Obviously not the same. Not the same style, of course, but it is a course where almost anyone can go compete. That's more of a birdie fest than anything else. Colonial can play pretty difficult, especially if the wind is up. But these feature really small greens. Greenbriers were a little bit bigger. I don't think it's a direct corollary, but for putting surfaces, if you're looking for bent and maybe around the green work, it's something you can go look into if you want. And hey, if Neiman wins, we're in the money when it comes down to it, right? Knox or Matt Wallace? Matt Wallace. Ironic that the Gim Reaper kills you most weeks. I think you need to ditch him for Scott Stallings. The Gim Reaper killed me once. Essentially, I think that's what it turned into. People just get mad that he doesn't win, and that his putting takes him out of tournaments. But the ball striking has been so good, and he's really strung together some really good turns. Let's see, he has back-to-back miscuts, Valspar and Byron Nelson. The Byron Nelson was the first time he lost strokes on approach since the Sony Open back in January, the second tournament of the year. He actually missed a cut at the Genesis too, and the Honda mixed in, but like 33rd, 44th, 29th, 36th, 21st, 37th, 5th. And this is all without putting a lick whatsoever. So I do see that the underlying numbers are there for him. Like, he has the sort of skill set, because the putting has been so bad, that he can have a good ball striking week and miss the cut. But if he does have a good ball striking week and he does putt, he does appear to me like a player that will churn out like a top 5, no problem, a la Corey Connors. He's actually shaping up to be very Corey Connors-esque, but Corey Connors right now is a more elite ball striker, obviously. And the putting has been better for Corey Connors. So that's why you're seeing these elite finishes from him. Bad field, good field, it doesn't make a difference. If Gim can figure out the putter, and although it's a very small sample, has putted better on bent grass than any other surface over the course of his small career, that good ball striking week, breaks even putting, now you're looking at a top 10 from a guy that everyone just wants to ditch because he's been pissing them off lately. Like, that's usually a guy to stick with. That's why he's a FOMO bet. That's why Siwoo is always a FOMO bet for me, just because when he gets his game together, I do believe that his game is as good as anyone in most tournaments. And this is just the style of course where Siwoo tends to play really well. A shorter course, prey on some of these short par 4s, make some putts, be on your way. I think that Gim can be another guy that falls into that area as well. The one problem with the ownership with Gim is anyone who runs projections, anyone who runs modeling, he's going to be near the top of the list just because his numbers are so good. I'm hoping it turns out, I forget who the guy was who kept jamming Von Taylor in every single week, and he finally did it at Pebble Beach the week that Von Taylor won, and Von Taylor was like 5% owned or something like that, maybe even less, and he just shipped every single DraftKings contest because he was the one who, I think it was it Sayu? I can't even remember who it was, but there was one guy, pro DFS player, who just jammed in Von Taylor because anyone who ran a model, Von Taylor would just pop every single week. And the one week he actually made some putts, he won. And he was a huge odds. No one owned him. He was super cheap on DraftKings. So you just kind of have to stick with it. Judging this stuff on a very micro level can be very dangerous. And I'm so guilty of doing that. I don't have the cojones and I don't have the discipline not to do that. But if you really zoom out, one of the great things Colin Drew used to always preach to me about, and I never really forgot it, was golf is really difficult to figure out, DraftKings-wise at least, or even betting-wise, how you're actually doing and whether your process is working or not. Because if you hit 2 outright winners in a row, you got them right. Maybe you had a bad process behind that. I don't know. It can make you seem like you're really good at golf betting. And realistically, it's 2 isolated events. And when you think about something like why the DFS pros and the DraftKings pros tend to stick towards basketball and tend to stick towards baseball and even hockey for that matter, is that they happen every single night and there's multiple slates every single night. So Showdown would probably be a better test of skill so you could actually track how you're doing. But where you might be able to play, let's say you play 10 MLB slates per week. Over the course of a month, you might get in 45 to 50 MLB slates. So that's a pretty big sample. You don't even get 40 total slates in a year of DraftKings golf. It's once per week. And you have no idea until you look at, like, really zoom out and look at the macro view of how you're doing and how your process is going to really judge whether it's working or not. Like, you could run bad variance-wise, you could run really well variance-wise, and it could delude you into thinking you're really good at this, or kind of kick you in the nuts a few times when you're actually doing the right things, but you're not getting the desired results you want over the course of a month. A month feels like a really long time, but essentially it's 4 events. It's not a big sample when it comes to golf whatsoever. So you have to manage your expectations and understand what you're actually looking for a baseline for this stuff. So that's why I'm sticking with Gim in this matter. Any love for Brian Stewart? Probably not. Not from me, at least. Can't believe that Phil hasn't withdrew. I think you mean withdrawn. Surely he misses the cut this week. I'm not playing Phil, but I wouldn't put it past him to go out and have another top 5 here. Rafa Cabrera Bello has been awful. However, has been good at Colonial and courses like Colonial. Has he? Has he been? Jeff liked him this week because he saw him make 7 birdies in a row. I mean, the only course I can remember Rafa Cabrera Bello ever playing well is TPC Southwind, which I do not think correlates with this at all. That's a really long par 71 or par 70. I mean, Rafa's made 3 cuts this year, and 2 of them have been in Texas, so that's not bad. I mean, Rafa just isn't playing well at all. There's no real pop courses for him. Genesis and WGC Mexico in 2020 before the hiatus. St. Jude at TPC, not River Highlands. I just said Southwind. So he's played well there a few times in his career. Arnold Palmer Invitational. No, I actually don't think that correlates whatsoever because the courses that he's playing well tend to be a bit longer courses. If you include that he did well at Byron Nelson, which I think is just an easier course than this, and I don't know has much correlation to it. And still, he was like 7 under through 7 holes, and he finished T21. So not even really that great of a week now, is it? He gained 2 strokes on approach, 4 around the greens for a guy who constantly loses around the greens. Seemed like kind of a lucky week from Rafa. Maybe I'm wrong. He's got all the skill back in the world, but it doesn't really strike me that way. Not the sense that I get, at least. Damon lost 5 strokes putting on Sunday. This is a good course for him, or is he just a play at coastal desert courses? On paper, it should be a really good track for him. He's not a big hitter. He's very accurate, can get really dialed in with the irons. Not a horrible putter by and large, but yeah, I do tend to just play him at coastal courses. It's weird. That's where he tends to do his best work. Desert courses as well. Is Hot Fire a good DK play? Dylan Hot Fire Fratelli. I don't know. He has those Texas connections. He can putt really well. His short game is really good. I just never really have a good sense of him whatsoever. He did win the John Deere Classic, which I do think is a corollary course to this, and maybe that's something to look for. Didn't make my list. Thoughts on Mackenzie Hughes this week? Pass. Do you like Reed-Im combo to start lineups? I don't hate it. It's not one that I'm using, but I can see why that's a good idea, so I don't hate it whatsoever. Love playing the best plays lineup. I think I've won money on those lineups each of the past 2 weeks on DK. How do you feel about Munoz this week? Statistically, Munoz actually rates out really well from the key proximity ranges that I'm looking at. I just haven't been able to get behind him recently. Maybe that is something that I should amend for this week, because by the numbers, he rates out well. Just can't get behind it. Adam Hadwin is a bad golfer, but his historical strokes gained average and is a very good short game player. Sneaky play. Sure, if you think he's good, you use him. Think Doc Redman continues the form he found at Byron Nelson. Nice pivot from HV3. I know Jeff Ulrich was big on him. Not really my play. I ended up going with Gim and someone else who I completely forget in that range now. Paul, the next question's for you. Do you have a favorite value play? The Todd Father. Coming straight at you from Paul Shag. $7,100 is Paul's sneaky play of the week. What an unique 2 stars. You don't use an with the word unique. You put an when you're writing something out in front of the syllable that sounds like a vowel. Yeah, it's tricky to figure out, but that's what it is. What's a unique 2-star lineup you wouldn't play? Brooks and Cantlay last time. I think I hit it off the top. I think JT and Scheffler is the unique play that you want at the top. I don't have the guts to do it, like I didn't have the guts for Brooks and Cantlay, but that's what I'm seeing by the numbers at least. Masters long sleeve is fire. Any interest in Kazire this week? Yeah, I'm back on Kazire this week. He's my guy. Have a sip of water. Throat's going dry here. No, I like Kazire. I'm using him. I think he's fine. Bet the opposite of Pat's picks. Stay away from Neiman and McNeely. I don't know how you can really bet the opposite of my picks unless you just take head-to-heads versus those guys. But I guess that might be a move. What'd you say, Paul? Ban him. You want me to ban him for life? Are the people out there saying ban this guy for life because he's a fucking asshole? Come on, Pat Show. I give you free content. You come on and make fun of poor Pat Mayo. What are you doing? Now I'm going to let this guy go. If he says something else shitty, he's done. Banned for life. Thoughts on Notorious RCB? I just kind of went over Rafa Cabrera Bayo. Cam Davis has not been great at Colonial, but always comes out in the model. Should I fade him, or is he coming around enough? Man, I don't know. You're using the model. You should be able to figure this part out. You're asking me. I would have told you about Cam Davis if I had interest in Cam Davis. Just sounds like you like guys. You should play the guys you like. Honest to God. It sounds like you're really doing the research. If you got the faith in him, I don't. But if you do, I say go for it. He's popping in the model for you. That's why you're running these. Thank you for doing these chats every week. Waiting stats. What number of rounds do you tend to have the most success with? Well, none would be the answer, but past 24 is usually what I try to look at. 36, and it really depends on the stat as well. I kind of went over this on the research show, which you can go back and check out. Stats like 350 to 400 yard par fours. You don't see a ton of those, so you have to have some context behind it. So I like to look at the longer term numbers from those. So I usually make a mixed condition model, so I'll weight that one at like past 100 rounds on that hole, where if I'm looking for approach and who's heating up, I might go like past 6 weeks in the mixed condition model for strokes gained approach, or even proximity from the key range that I'm looking at as well, and just try to mix those different stats with what I perceive to be, more data from one of them, and I'll weight those in the short term, and one where we have less data, try to weight those out in the longer term and try to put them all together and see what it spits out. I should do a better job of making those every single week, but I get busy and lazy, and sometimes I don't do it. I just run the model, like, all right, that's what the guys are telling me, perfect. Maybe I should make an amended version of this model where I do factor all that stuff in, but I'm a lazy man from time to time. I get burnt out from doing the content, and then at like 9 o'clock at night, I don't feel like doing anything else. So that's maybe that's why you get the membership at Fantasy National. And then you can take advantage of all of that and really dig into it yourself if you'd like. Siwoo and the Gooch seem too cheap. Siwoo history is awful here, but any interest in either? Of course I have interest in Siwoo. It's me. The Gooch, yeah, maybe not. Any thoughts on Ortiz? It felt like at some point during the PGA Championship, every single day, Carlos Ortiz was at some point 4 under, and then he'd just give it all back. I don't know what to make of him right now. I usually do like him on Texas courses. Really hadn't given much consideration to him this week, actually, but maybe low Mexican versus Answer. This either feels like Answer comes in second place or Answer misses the cut, like right on the number, and screws over a bunch of people. I'm not playing him, but he's also Andercursed this week, as Tim's one and done, so... And there's a lot of stuff going on here with Abe Answer. Maybe low Mexican player, Carlos Ortiz, could be a decent wager with so much steam behind Abraham Answer at the moment. But he didn't really pop up on my radar. Both Gim and Siwoo in the lineups. Yeah, they're definitely going to be in there at some point. I don't know what the exposure I have because I have not made them yet. Who's been Andercursed? It is Mr. Abraham Answer. What did Cush shoot when you guys played yesterday? Cush shot 95. I shot 96. Not great, but it's a course where they had an LPGA event before, so it's not the easiest course going. And the wind just fucked with us all day. I lost the front 9. I made 2 triples and a quad. If we played match play, I think I won 4 up against him, but we didn't play match play, so I can't really take credit for. I'm not cussed. I'm not going to take credit for that. He put one OB on 18, and I was down 2. And we ended up on the green from almost the exact similar length. If I had made and he had missed, I actually would have won the match. I was 4 feet away. He was 3.5 feet away. I lipped out my 4-footer. Cuss made his 3.5-footer. So if I had just made, we would have pushed. I missed. I lost by a stroke. So that sucked. It felt good to get back in the swing of things, though. I've just played so infrequently over the past few years that my game has really gone to shit. That it's one of those classic things where for 4 or 5 holes, kind of rolling, getting the green speeds down, figuring out my irons again, figuring out all the lengths. And it was tough to do with so much wind just because you had to like double club up on almost every approach shot. And I had to put the driver in the bag at one point because I hit it OB on like 3 consecutive shots. And it wasn't even my driver that I was playing with. It was a friend's driver, so I couldn't even snap it over my fucking leg. So I was so fucking pissed off. But I pulled out this like stiff shaft 3-wood. It was just... I was hitting it just as far as my driver because I was losing all my distance on my driver by just slicing it to the right. I was hitting this one straight and basically just still putting it out there like 220, but down the middle of the fairway. Once I started doing that, started playing a whole lot better. Turns out your score gets better when you're not losing balls OB off the tee on back-to-back shots. That's how you make triples and quads, as it turns out. But I did lose a ball in the rough. We couldn't figure out where it went. On the 16th hole, and that was really the end of my day. I had pulled back even with Cust, and then just one of those, like Bryson at the Masters. You put the ball in the rough is high. 4 of us looked for it, couldn't find it, had to take an unplayable. Sucks, but them's the rules, and that's what happens. Who are the 3 Andercursed players this week? This is not a major, so there's just one Andercursed player. You'll have to follow him on Twitter to find out the rest of the Andercursed players like midweek, but it's Abraham Answer at the moment. If you had to pick between PGA Tour and Euro Tour for betting, which would you select? Do you believe there's better value on the European Tour? I can't really speak to that, to tell you the truth, because you'd think that would be a worse market. Maybe at an American-only sportsbook, the Euro Tour does present better value, but I use international sites because I'm not American. I'm an international, so I have access to all not all the British books. Like I can't trade on Betfair, but I use Bet365 for most of my bets, which is the largest sports book in the world internationally. Like their Euro lines are pretty sharp, just like their PGA lines. I mean, I would bet PGA because I just have more interest in the PGA. Although now that my kids get up at 4 a.m., I have been watching more European Tour. I'm not going to lie to you. What about Old Faithful Mickelson? It's going to be tough for me. It feels like chasing this week for me. Got here late. Did you already discuss all the weather advantages? Yes, I did. That happens if you want to rewind to 6:21 in the show. I go over the weather forecast, and if you scroll up in the chat and rewind to that point, you'll see that I drop that link in there as well to the wind finder tower that I am using this week. I'll probably include that in the newsletter. Maybe I'll even do up like a rinky-dink newsletter that just kind of has jot form points. I've been trying to put like a lot of effort into it, but then it takes me like 2 hours to write. I'm like, why am I making more work for myself when I could just put this in? It's the point of the newsletter. It's like here are like just observations I've made. Here's a cheat sheet. Here are links. Maybe that's good enough for the newsletter going forward. Major Week might be a little bit different as it's like extra content, but it's completely free and you can sign up for it in the description of the video and pod. Thanks, Pat and Paul, for all of the work you guys both do. You guys are my stress busters. Now I can't go a day without listening to the show. I wish more people were like you, Andrew, that you get a good laugh from us and, puts a smile on your face for the rest of the day. Thank you for tuning in. If you are like Andrew, I suggest you smash the like button and subscribe to Mayo Media Network. I'm looking really forward to getting back into football full time. I'm going to have to make a decision on what happens to this show in particular. It's just really difficult to do. Like if I upload videos, it's not bad. Maybe this will stay a video only show and I won't upload it to the podcast feed. But then I feel bad because more people listen to the podcast feed than actually watch the videos. But if I put out 2 audio podcasts in one day, whichever one gets released first just gets buried. It doesn't get downloaded because people don't even see it sometimes. It doesn't even pop up on people's phones. So it's really like a waste of numbers for me when it comes to advertisers and things like that. I like to stick to one show per day unless there's some sort of an emergency. But video-wise, I think we could probably get away with that. Keep this and go football, not full-time, but like 3 days a week football, 3 days a week golf, and that will be the Pat Mayo experience, 6 days a week coming at you. So if you could just support all of the shows and download all of the shows when you see them, I might be able to keep the live chat along. I guess maybe I'll hear from you guys. You guys can tweet at me at the PME. Would you rather see the research show on Sundays continue to go, or would you like to see the live stats? Or the live chat show and like this show come up, because I can basically put this into a newsletter and maybe do like a Twitter AMA or something like that if you guys have questions, or you can send them to an email and I can answer the best ones or something like that in the newsletter. Maybe that could be a new facet. Still trying to work a lot of this stuff out, but now that football is coming back around, as much as I love golf, I do love football as well. And we're talking about where the new people come in to find the show. It's from football. It's not from golf. I appreciate everyone who watches for golf. I love doing golf, but it's just a drop in the bucket compared to the new people that come to the channel and consume the content for football. So we got to cater to those people too. Plus, I mean, that's where I got my start, was in football. It wasn't golf. And there's just a lot of people who go back with me like 10, 12 years who are just here for football, tolerate the golf, but they love the football, almost like the inverse of the people watching right now who love the golf, tolerate the football and the other shit that comes along. Anyone popping in Paul's model this week? It was the Todd father. Pat, I am so glad that I will win the PME DK Listeners League this week before you cussed me. Thank you, Pat. Good luck. I'm in it too. Maybe I'll win this week. Take that. It's already full too, so thanks everyone for jumping in that. Love McNeely's putter this week. Actually gained with irons last week. Didn't play last week, but 2 weeks ago. However, any worries about his driver? Yeah, absolutely. But this isn't a huge driving course. Just hit the fairways and you're good to go. Thoughts on Whaley this week? Smash the like button. I'm using them. Went over Whaley at the very beginning of the show, starting around 9:52. Vince Whaley gets his discussion when I talk about him. Thoughts on Rory Sabatini, former winner? I'm taking a pass there. Having trouble eliminating guys in the 9 to 10K range. Do you have any fades in that range? Not good ones, because I think that you can make a very viable case for everyone. But these are the decisions that you have to make when it comes down to constructing your lineups. For me, I'm playing Connors, Neiman, Im, and Kokrak. Those are the only 4 guys in the 4s that I'm doing. That means I'm fading Answer and Zalatoris and Finau and Scheffler. That doesn't feel good. And I know that I'm going to make a mistake with one of those, but which one? I couldn't really tell you. And I'm jumping off a lot of ownership that way. Although I'm still using guys that have a lot of ownership along with them, I'm getting away from a lot of the really chalky high-end guys as well. This Zalatoris' week with his putting splits, isn't he worse on bent grass than everything else? Pretty sure that he is. And I wouldn't put too much into that because that means his Masters numbers are not in there. Mainly because they have proprietary strokes gained numbers when it comes down to it. Overall, like, he's just not a good putter. Maybe this could be a good week for him. I wouldn't say just because it's on bent that it means it's any better whatsoever, though. Who are you high on that no one else is playing? Stenson? Ugh, that feels so just icky, being on Stenson and saying he's a good player. Yeah. Per the numbers, bent is Zalatoris' worst putting surface, losing 0.3 strokes per round. POA would currently be his best, gaining 0.1 per round. But it's a small sample for Zalatoris. He has so few stats that, it's really hard to glean too much from those because he's a new player, by and large, especially stats-wise. How about this? He's not a good putter, just in general. So, it could be a week where he turns around with his putter. It's more likely that it's not a week where he turns it around from his putter. He was just on bent at the Byron Nelson. He lost 4.3 strokes putting. He did gain at the Masters, though, so maybe that mitigates that. Then you look at that Heritage, where it was like partial Bermuda, somewhat POA. He gained almost 4. I don't really know what to make of that. So it's really hard to extract too much. You want to make a case for it? Yeah, I'm sure you can find numbers that point in your way. I could look at it, too, and say that it's not good if you look at the overall scope of it. You probably already talked about this and will tell me to fuck off. Any effort first round leader pick should have tuned out at the beginning. Fuck off. I don't have any this week. Sleeping on Sergio? I'm always sleeping on Sergio. Did you beat Cust in golf? Nope. Smash the like button. Thoughts on Poulter this week? Poulter is in my player pool this week. Has the studio migrated to Casa Mayo, or are you still going into the office? No, my current temp studio is here in my house, in my basement. I've been trying to find a new location to buy and build multiple sets and really blow out Mayo Media Network, but I have now lost on 3 consecutive pieces of real estate by getting outbid, and even when I went $70,000 over asking, still lost out on a bid yesterday, which was an awesome location. So feels like shit. I'm going to get a place. I hope I have it ready in time for the NFL season to start, but then I will have an office with a much larger set with people back in the studio. But for the moment, I've tried to do the best to recreate what I was doing in my old studio. We'll get screens put in behind me eventually. It's still a work in progress being in my basement. If you had a chance to be the starter and announce 3 golfers, who would you pick? Can you simulate how you would each announcer? I don't give a shit about stuff like that. Just take that to shows where, they like to talk about that stuff instead of having to making picks on things where they just talk around it and try to pick everybody. With wins and small greens, does that emphasize scrambling and short game? You'd think it would, but I just don't think that scrambling is all that difficult around here. The scrambling percentage is very high at this course. 3 putts are very low at this course, so I'm still de-emphasizing it a lot. And realistically, I do think that round 1 is really the only one where you're going to get into trouble from this. Has random cuss-isms rubbed off on you on any way? The other day, I called Diet Coke DC, and I randomly finding myself added the in front of places like the Olive Garden. No, it doesn't. Although, the problem is, and it's the same way how we got the name Cust, is that the Cust was something that one of our friends said after returning from on vacation, because people were saying it around there. He picked it up, and it just annoyed everyone to no end that it's just you got to stop saying this. But it really annoyed one of our friends to no end. He would legit get triggered anytime that this one guy said the word Cust. So in order to annoy that guy even more, we started saying the word Cust all the time just to fuck with him and make him really mad and make him leave places, because that's the type of friends that we are. And then for whatever reason, Cust just meant shitty. And then we just started calling Tim Ender Cust, and then just started calling him Cust. It's one of those nicknames that just evolved over time. So there are certain things like saying DCs. We say it in a mocking way to Cust, but you do catch yourself saying it from time to time too. That's usually how the language evolves when you're around your group of friends. And, most people don't have a show that people watch where they also include their friends in it and have those weird colloquialisms mixed into it as well. So if you guys are picking up on it too, I feel sorry for that, but hey, it makes you feel like you're a part of our gang because that is how we actually talk to one another. Thoughts on Carlos Ortiz? Been over that. Is Spieth Morikawa build too popular in single entry? Don't think so. For process, do you ever look at a guy drastically underperforming their history on something like approach or especially putting and figure that guy has to improve, or do you typically wait for the form? I try to get early on guys. Like there's nothing that really points to Maverick McNeely over two like very specific data points that I'm cherry picking. I'm just hoping I'm right with that analysis. With Gim, I just feel like no one could putt this badly so long, and the underlying numbers on ball striking work really well. So if he can just get lucky with the putter, I feel like I'm going to be in business. My friend Carl only plays the players you play and loses. Yeah, that sounds about right. I like Carl, though. Carl sounds like a good guy who supports the show. And, I mean, if you've played with us long-term over the past 6 years, you're up money. I can guarantee you that. Just not so much recently. Oh, Paul, you're banning people from life out there before I can get to them?
Yes.
Racism?
No.
Just idiots?
They're making comments about your wife.
My wife?
Nothing too personal.
Nothing too personal.
You can see you have viewed.
No, I don't want to see that because that will legit make me angry. And it makes me... Oh, are they now? Well, it legit makes me angry when people don't use... You can see Pat Mayo. Pat Mayo is my real name. You can see my face. And I'm going to have shitty opinions. You can come at me for those. You cowards that hide behind names out there. Feel bad for you. Tell you the truth. And just don't talk about my wife. Because I will do a reverse IP address now that you've listed this comment. And potentially find out where you live? I mean, I don't know what I'm saying I'm going to do. Nothing is what I'm going to do. But, you know, I can access that information pretty easily if you're commenting in the chat. Put it that way. It's not too difficult to figure out. I am new to the Mayo universe. Does Andercuss partake in the weed or the alcohol? I assume it's crack with his takes. Yeah, he is. He has his crack pipe on him 24/7. He's just going. So, yeah, a crack addict, to say the least. He's not, really. No weed. Very rarely drinks. He's just a straight edge type guy. Tuning in late, sorry if I missed this. Need a big name to burn in the one and done. Who's your favorite from the top? Morikawa, then Spieth. Streelman, sneaky pick. I don't think he's really sneaking up on anyone. Straka, good last man in, 6 straight cuts. Currently no real high finishes. He's not horrible, to say the least. He's not going to make it for me. Pat, where and when can I get some Mayo Media merch? Would like to have a ball for my golf ball display. See, woo! This week. There's a hat right there that might be one of 2 in existence. So I don't know when the merch is coming. Griot, first round leader. Pat, much love. I'm not playing any first round leaders this week. Actually, that's not true. I played one first round leader, and this was a Josh. I think it was a Josh. No, it might have been a. Oh, shit. I accidentally logged out because I was logged in too long. Let's see if I can log in from my app. Figure it out that way. What was the name of this idiot that I played first round leader on the Corn Ferry Tour? Patrick Flavin. 110-1 first round leader at the Evans Scholars Invitational. Sky had pointed out he had played really well on something like the Outlaw Tour or something. Has played well in Illinois in the past. Why not? Threw $10 on it. 110-1. Give me some money, Flavin, and we'll be good to go. Me and you will be solid for the rest of the time. Who's your biggest rival in betting? Like Finau for Jeff. I don't have that. I don't have rivals like that. Sure, people got VPNs. Yeah, I'm sure that they don't. Put it that way. If you're someone who's coming on a like YouTube chat to like talk about people, you don't have a VPN. You're just probably a fucking loser, and you just think that nothing applies to you. That's the end of everything. I'm probably gonna ban you as well. I don't like your name. Don't like your name at all. Started off as a football listener, fell in love with both for golf. Thanks to both. Thank you, James, for tuning in. I'll give a 1-minute warning for anyone else who wants to leave a question. If not, we shall wrap this up. I did tell you tomorrow we're going to have some future bets for the NFL, breaking down some win totals and player props, maybe talk some NBA playoffs with Preston Johnson at Sports Cheetah, because he is one of the better guests, like I said, that I have on all the time. Pat, my DraftKings name is Fran ZB, just telling you before winning your league. I like the confidence. It's pretty good. You're not going to win, though. Hate to tell you. It's a stupid name. Fran. It's a man's name? Fran? Give yourself a break. Francis. Lighten up, Francis. Thoughts on Brooks and Bryson beef? I'll probably do that next week with Jeff. I don't really care. I just think it's funny. I like Bryson. I like them both, but I really like Bryson. He's my guy. That will do it for me. Become a member at fantasynational.com. Today, fantasynational.com/Mayo. There it is. Even if we're coming off a major, would this be a good join to time? Fantasy National. Do you have a promo code? Of course it is. Every week is. These tournaments are generally more profitable than the majors, to tell you the truth. fantasynational.com/Mayo. Get you 20% off the lineup generator, the simulator, the head-to-head matchups, the ownership projections, any membership that you get, the weekly, the monthly, or the yearly. It's all the same stuff. There's no tiered type of membership. If you're a weekly member, you get the same access as an annual member. It's just if you use it for 52 weeks on a weekly membership, you were just better off getting the annual one because it would have been cheaper for you. And if you get the monthly right now, it does take you through the U.S. Open. So there's that too if you want to get acclimated to the site. So fantasynational.com/Mayo. Smash the like on the way out. Now we do have some more questions. Do you think Kazire will be highly owned this week, him or Knox? I don't think he'll be highly owned. I'll go with Kazire. Pat, keep it up. You're an OG. Underappreciated. I feel like I'm properly appreciated, to tell you the truth. People seem to like me enough, but not too many people. That's right in my wheelhouse for me. Good luck to everyone out there this week. Sub to the channel, sub to the podcast, all that fun stuff, and sub to the newsletter. Hopefully I will get that out there tonight. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.